Welcome, Karen. We'll wait just another couple minutes for people to log on.
It's a fairly cool backdrop, though.
It's our website. Sorry.
Darrell, we'll need to get you like a little inner tube or something, so it really looks like you're floating around in the harbor.
So, well, I'm usually under the water, right? So
Yes, that's right.
yeah. No diving yet so far this year. So. Yeah, let's wait another couple minutes and then we'll get started. All right, I think we'll get started this morning, everyone. I'm sure we'll have a few more join as we continue along. I want to first of all thank everyone for coming out today, especially all the new members. Since our last meeting back in November, where we had 60 in the user group, we have now climbed to 77 members. So if some of the new members are with us today, I'd like to welcome them. Obviously, our lives changed again last Thursday with the province going back into a state of emergency. It looks like it has had some impact on our numbers today. Since last meeting we had almost 50, and we're certainly at about half of that right now for today. So I'm hoping that some more join us shortly, especially since we have such an amazing lineup this month. With a sponsor from Solego, as well as we have Gavin from NetSuite and our own Lisa Reed. But I'll go into the agenda in a second. So welcome, everyone. I'd like to remind everybody that we are recording, just like we used to do before COVID hit and we used to meet in person. We've always broadcasted these meetings to people that can't make it in person, as well as we record it and we put it up in the members only section of the website for those to review, look back, especially since there's a lot of practical information and tips. Any of the presentations will also be put up on the member only section so that you can download or review them yourself later. So if we'd like to look at today's agenda, normally, of course, we usually have our sponsor go more in the middle of the meeting, but with them being out on the West Coast and a few challenges, in their schedule today, we are going to have our sponsor Solego speak first. Then we're going to have Gavin, who of course has presented here several times in the past, come talk about our new release that most of us will be getting probably in or so the next week or so of NetSuite. And then of course our own Lisa, who is well-versed in, let's say, tips and tricks, as well as what isn't working, which is sometimes just as important. We'll be talking about the, of course, dreaded tax time of our lives right now. So with that, I'd like to get us started. I'd like to thank our meeting sponsor today, which is Solego. I will start first by saying I'm actually a Solego customer, and that's where this developed. So we very happily have used the Solego sort of pre-made connector from Salesforce to NetSuite for the last couple of years, which we have thoroughly enjoyed and is working very well in our company. They, of course, have a range of products, which is something that I know our company wants to look at. So instead of just booking an appointment with us, I approached them to be a sponsor, which they were very agreeable to. And that way we can all see what Solego has on the table and how we can sort of automate our lives more and interconnect our data. So with that, I'd like to introduce Karen and Justine and Deb to take the stage, and I will turn it over to them and stop sharing.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for putting this together. It's very exciting to be able to get back together, even if it is in virtual format. So can everyone see my screen? Just give me a thumbs up if you can. All right, perfect. So obviously we're going to talk about Solego today. I wanted to do a quick introduction of our team. I'm Karen Stella. I'm the account executive here at Solego. I do cover Canada. So if you are working a deal or if you have a company in Canada that needs integrations, I would be your main point of contact. I also have Deb Morgan on the line, and she is our director of the solution consultants team. And then Justine, she's the sales lead of the Cloud Extend team. So first, I'm going to give you a little brief overview about Solego, and then I'm going to pass it on to Deb, who's going to do a little overview of the product. And then Justine is going to share a new product that we have with our Cloud Extend team. So I'm sure most of you guys have heard about Solego. We are fairly popular in the NetSuite ecosystem. So if you've worked with NetSuite for a while, I'm sure you've come across Solego. Chances are either you're a customer or a partner. And I definitely recognize some names on the list today. And hopefully I'll get to meet the other ones as well. But if you don't know about Solego, really what Solego is it allows you to quickly integrate applications and automate all your business processes across any application. And this is particularly important in the NetSuite ecosystem if you're looking to keep NetSuite as your system of record and master data source for your financials or customer information, your product information, your inventory, and so on, everything gets built around NetSuite. So that's important to have all that information flowing seamlessly from one place to the next, and then you can do so with thousands of applications. As you know, we are NetSuite's largest integration partner to date. So we have over 4,000 NetSuite customers in every single vertical. So not only are we vertically agnostic, but we also have pre-built best-in-class integrations that are very popular in the NetSuite ecosystem. And as Darrell mentioned, we have our Salesforce connector. It's super popular. Jira, Zendesk, Shopify, Amazon. We recently released our PayPal reconciliation. So a lot of awesome products have been around for quite a long time, and then we're constantly releasing new products as well. And also we customize as well. So if you have more of a unique use case, I'm sure we can support it as well. The platform is built both for your IT user as well as your business user. So it's a really powerful platform, but you don't have to be a developer to manage the integration. And then also, what you'll get a glimpse of later on, we have our very popular brand called Cloud Extend, and it serves Outlook and Gmail and Excel for NetSuite. And then, like I mentioned, we have a new analytics tool for reporting, which Justine will go over later on today as well. So if you have seen this presentation before, I do have two new announcements that I wanted to share today. First off is that we recently released our Celigo University. So this is a place where you can log on, you can get free courses, you can actually become certified in Celigo with multiple tier levels, and you can get free NetSuite integration courses as well. So you just go to celigo.com/university where you can get a free account, you can get certified, or just learn about the NetSuite integrations for free. The other big announcement is that I can switch my screen here. There it goes. So Celigo was named one of G2's best software of 2021. So if you're familiar with G2, this is a huge deal for us. They have something like 100,000 applications that are ranked on G2. And so Celigo was in the top 50 for IT, the top 200 overall. And huge validation is that we were the highest ranked of all the iPasses that made the list. So really, to sum it up, Celigo will allow you to automate all your processes in and around NetSuite and beyond, providing a very powerful platform that really makes it easy to do so. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and send it over to Deb. I will stop sharing, and she's going to do a little overview of the platform.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And I, much like some of the others that were mentioned, I too was a Celigo customer 7 years ago for this very product. And I was so impressed. I've been here now 4 years helping others with theirs. So also a NetSuite sysadmin. So one of the things I really just wanted to start with is, as Karen mentioned, this is really designed to be pre-built. It comes with a managed package in Salesforce, managed bundle in NetSuite. What does that mean to a user? It means that anytime there's updates to either system, Celigo's gone in and done all the beta testing. We've made sure that these integrations will not be impacted with any enhancements or changes that those companies roll out. But it also means that we've done the heavy lift, right? So maybe you have customers or teams that don't have a sysadmin, or they just don't have bandwidth. So everything I'm going to show you today is already created out of the box. It is all the custom fields, custom objects, page layouts, but you could still customize it or decide who sees what. But we've really done a lot of the heavy lifting. In addition to that, you're going to see when I take you into the integration flows themselves, we've even pre-mapped all of the required fields. So what are the required fields that NetSuite is going to need in order to create those records, and vice versa. So the thing that I want to do first, just really quickly, this is a really quick overview, but I want to touch on the highlights that we really hear from customers that they love, is we were able to keep the Salesforce folks using Salesforce without a NetSuite license, and we were able to get everything into NetSuite for those users without needing a Salesforce license. Those are really expensive, but making sure that they have visibility to all the things that they need in order to say manage an account from Salesforce. So you're going to notice I'm I'm sitting on an account, that's where it usually begins its life cycle, is in Salesforce. I would say that most of our customers want to sync that over as a customer only when their first opportunity's been closed, maybe a stage one, a closed one, but you have some flexibility there. But notice, in addition to just your standard account fields in the Salesforce ecosystem, we have a custom section here called financials. And I like to think of this as really just the financials health snapshot of the account if I'm managing it. Are they on credit hold? This customer here has an invoice that's 96 days old. So I want to know about that. They're in trouble. Unbilled orders and such. So really, this is all coming directly from the NetSuite customer financial tab into Salesforce, so the team managing the account can see that. Now, I'm going to scroll through really quickly. There's a lot that we bring over, but you can pick and choose. These are flows you could turn on and off. I'm on an account level, but one of the things we do sync over is, in addition to, of course, you're originating your opportunities in Salesforce. Once that has closed and we've created that order on the NetSuite side, the sales rep can actually see the order. They can see the order lines. When they click on this, they can actually even see the NetSuite status. Is it pending approval, pending billing, pending fulfillment? So we're updating that. So they really have full visibility into that. And if you have customers who need to do fulfillments on the NetSuite side, it's even going to bring back in fulfillments if they desire to do that. In addition to that, this is a really popular feature here, is we can bring over all of the financial records that are associated with an order. Now, I'm on the account page, but that's also visible on a specific opportunity if you're looking at just a certain one. But as you can see here, if I click view all for the historical transactions, you can actually see that we're bringing all those over. And if I come into, excuse me, I'm losing my voice here. If I come in here and let's just say I go into a particular opportunity, let's just grab this one, for example. You're going to notice that a few things. Celigo has, in order to create that order on the NetSuite side, we've brought over all of the items and products. Most customers, we really advise, if possible, to originate those on the NetSuite side and let Celigo sync those over as products. I would say most of our customers have their pricing master in Salesforce. So if you're using your Pricebook master in Salesforce, maybe even CPQ, you're using tiered pricing. We can always support a lot of those use cases as well. Suite building. CPQ is really coming up. I don't know if you've seen that, but a lot of our customers have moved into CPQ. And so for those, we actually already have flows that are available to support any of that. And so I just want to touch on the opportunity itself. Imagine that it's gone through its life cycle, in this case, closed one. Celigo took all of this product detail, all the line level detail, and we actually created that order on the NetSuite side. In this case, there was actually a fulfillment. So we're actually bringing that back over if you need that. And on the NetSuite financial side, we're bringing back over the invoice and the invoice lines. Now, this is something that a lot of folks really, really like. Imagine that if you're the sales rep, your customer calls you and says, my invoice looks wrong. Well, you want to be able to go in there, take a look at it. You can click on the related list, and then you can come down here and see the actual PDF that is from NetSuite. So really, it's just about being able to service your customer. You can also expand. I'm going to show you an example really quickly. An example is maybe cases. So maybe you, in addition to all of the pre-built flows that we need, I'm going to even show you how you can expand, because our platform is really flexible, to either bring over maybe a custom object that you might have, or a NetSuite, a Salesforce case to NetSuite case. So I just want to take just a quick minute and jump into Integrator IO. So I'm managing a lot of different integrations, Salesforce, NetSuite, Jira, Zendesk. I'm even bringing my customer AR payments in from my banks and applying those against the actual open invoices. So a lot of different features here that I can manage in my single dashboard. But today we're going to focus on the Salesforce NetSuite. You'll notice these, as I mentioned earlier, these are all pre-built flows out of the box. You're never starting from scratch. And in here, you can see that we've got bi-directional flows for syncing a Salesforce account to NetSuite customer, and the reverse. We're syncing contacts. We're syncing opportunities. You can also sync from orders, for example. If you're using CPQ, that's a really common one to pull from a Salesforce order record. And again, we're syncing all of your items and products. and all the financial records. Now you can come in and the settings, again, these are all pre-built out of the box. So what I'm showing you here, you just come in and kind of make your choices. And on this one where you see sync transaction types, you can decide, maybe you don't need to see all these financial records associated with the order. So you just select the ones that you want. Maybe you only want to see invoices and credit memos, for example. Okay, so you really kind of pick and choose. One other thing that I want to point out that I think is really, really critical is really we've done all the heavy lifting. As I mentioned here, you can come in, you can click on this, you can actually see your record that you're mapping to. So it makes it easy. You just, if you want to add an additional custom field, find your next empty box, click on that field, and then find the corresponding matching field. So as you can see here out of the box, we've done a lot of heavy lifting for you. So up and running really quickly. I want to take just one more set of minutes here and talk about how easy it would be to expand these flows. These are the pre-built ones, but let's say that you wanted to bring in a Salesforce case. Maybe you're using that or your field service. So you would come in here and you simply say, for this flow, what is my source system? So in this case, I'm going to say Salesforce. I'm going to click this. And what do I want to do? In this case, I'm going to either do real-time exports or I could do batch. So let's go in and let's do some real-time flow. So when a case is created and it reaches maybe a certain stage, I'm going to come in here and pick my Salesforce instance. And I'm going to pick from a set of listeners that are already there. So we've already kind of done some of the more common ones. In this case, Salesforce case. And I'm then going to tell it what system am I going to bring this into. So that's my source. What's my destination? So I'm going to go into NetSuite. I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to go in and say, I want to import records into the destination application. And then this is where I'm going to pick an existing. If it's not existing, you can go in and just click edit, and then you'll be able to set up your credentials to that endpoint. And then what would I like to do? I'm going to go in and say, import NetSuite cases. And I'm going to hit next. So the last step is I've defined source record destination. I'm just going to go in and define a few fields. So some of the most common ones right here I've already populated. You could see subject maybe. Let's go in and launch this assistant. Like I mentioned earlier, you can go in and simply click and select the fields that you'd like. So we've already pre-mapped subject and status and who the company is and the incidents. But you would simply come in here and pick any other field, standard or custom field. You could click on it, for example, emails. I'm not sure if there's an email address on the other side, but we could try that. Yeah, there we are. So let's go ahead and do that. Once you've got all your fields mapped, you can go ahead and save and close. So now that particular flow has been created and all you do is turn that on. You can also add to your flow triggers if you want to have a field that only has a checkbox or a stage. So really the goal here for this quick overview is just to show you how we've really pre-built out this integration app for Salesforce and NetSuite, but it can still easily be expanded for custom fields, custom records, or additional records that might be native to either of those records. So I hope this has been helpful to give you just a little overview of the product itself. So I'm going to turn it back over to Karen, or to Justine, I think.
Awesome. Thanks, Deb. Let me share my screen here, guys. So thanks for having me here today. I'm Justine from the Cloud Extend team. For those of you who may not have heard of Cloud Extend before, our division focuses on these productivity applications that really help our customers save a ton of time day in and day out. We have 3 NetSuite-centric applications and a brand new app being released later this month, which I'm so excited to talk about and introduce to you today. And I'm going to show a quick demo on that in just a few moments. So let's start with Cloud Extend Google Workspace for NetSuite and Cloud Extend Outlook for NetSuite. These applications integrate your email, calendar, and either Google Drive or OneDrive and SharePoint with NetSuite. Why do customers use these applications every day? All day long, you're working in Gmail or Outlook, you're talking to your customers, your leads, your prospects, etc. And no one has access to your inbox but you. And then, of course, you have NetSuite, which is the source of truth and information. As my manager says, if it isn't in NetSuite, it didn't happen. I love that motto. And Cloud Extend really helps to bridge the gap. We make it really easy to get the important conversations, files, events, etc., into NetSuite for that critical 360-degree visibility, so everyone in your company is on the same page. I'll show a quick demo of the Outlook app in just a moment. But first, I wanted to talk about our 2 Excel-based applications. So we have Cloud Extend Excel for NetSuite, and this allows users to create, edit, and update, and even delete NetSuite records directly in Excel, just saving a ton of time. One quick example, imagine you're an account exec and you're working with large complex quotes. Imagine being able to create a 500-line quote in Excel and push that into NetSuite in less than a minute. In fact, one of our awesome customers uses our app just for that specifically. And I quote, no pun intended, saves 7,300 hours a year using Cloud Extend Excel. So that's really awesome. Some other use cases include uploading journal entries, editing journal entries, work orders, purchase orders, creating items, sales orders. There's thousands of use cases for this application. So it saves a ton of time doing all of this directly in Excel. Now that brings me to our latest and greatest application, Cloud Extend Analytics for NetSuite. This is actually currently in beta, being released on the 21st of this month. This also integrates with Excel, but in an entirely different way. With this application, you can pull NetSuite data, save searches out of NetSuite, not to make changes and push it back like the other app I just mentioned, but more as a way to report off of that data. So maybe you want to pull a save search in and you want to have it run on a schedule every Monday at 1 a.m. Or you want to refresh that save search, on the fly. That's exactly what this application will allow you to do. So I'll give a quick demo of that in a second. But first, I just want to give a quick 2-minute demo on our Outlook app. This is very similar to the G Suite app. So if you use Gmail, the concept's pretty much the same. So I'm here in Outlook. I'm on the web. This works on the desktop, on Macs, on PCs. In fact, it also works on mobile devices as well, which is really cool. But let's just do a quick demo here of saving an email to NetSuite. I click on this email here. This is something that's important. It really should be in NetSuite for my manager, my colleagues, et cetera, to see. Our app will sit here on the right-hand side. I click on the suggest button. We do a search in NetSuite and we pull back matching records. So we find these records for you quickly, and then you can choose which record or records is relevant that you want to save the email to. You also have the ability to include attachments. Maybe you have something, an attachment, a file that you want to add alongside the email. You have the ability to include those as well. And then when it comes to saving the email, there's 2 options. If I want to save this email, plus all of the back and forth emails that come through on this particular thread, I can turn what's called autopilot on. If I save the email with autopilot, that's all I need to do. At that point, me and Jess can go back and forth 100 times over the next 3 weeks, and all of those emails will save automatically for you. Saves a ton of time. You also have an option to just save the one email. So maybe you're not sure if you want to put it on autopilot or not. That's totally fine. You can save this one email. Great. Now this is saved to those records in NetSuite under the communication tab. Everybody has visibility to that conversation. So really, really easy to get the email saved to where you need them to be in NetSuite. One other feature that I wanted to mention that's really exciting is the ability to create and edit certain records. You can actually create these 6 record types directly from Outlook. And what's really awesome about this is we just added support for custom fields. So if you have some custom fields on your lead form, for example, you can now actually edit those directly from here. You can create, for example, a lead with those custom fields. So it's really almost as if you're working in NetSuite, but in Outlook. So being able to create these from here and edit these records from here saves a ton of time. It's a really, really popular feature and just helps, with productivity. I mentioned also being able to attach OneDrive and SharePoint files and folders or Google Drive files and folders to NetSuite. That's actually really nice because it does not consume any NetSuite storage space whatsoever. So that's a really, really popular feature as well. So I just wanted to give that quick overview. And now I wanted to talk a little bit about this new application, Cloud Extend Analytics for NetSuite. So our app will sit here on the right here inside Excel. This is also a Microsoft add-in similar to our Outlook app. And what you're seeing on the screen here, these are saved searches that I've previously pulled in. You can see the last time it was updated. So for example, this save search I actually just ran an hour ago, and you can see that here. But what I want to show is how you can actually pull in a new report, and then you have the option to put it on a schedule if you want. You don't have to necessarily. You can just pull it in and then refresh it when you need to. But what's really cool about this is it happens really quickly. And it really gives you flexibility to pull data in as you need it in almost real time. And then of course, once it's in Excel, you can use the power of Excel to report off that. You might have pivot tables, you might have charts linked to these searches that you want to refresh easily. We give you the engine to do that. So let me show a quick example here. So I'm going to hit new report and I'm going to hit add report. And let's find a particular saved search. I think it's called, yeah, warehouse item search. So I'm going to click on this particular search here and hit add. The next step, if I wanted to, is I can put it on a schedule to run at a certain time, you know, a certain date, etc. I have one schedule already running for some of my saved searches already. I can add it to that schedule, or I can just create a brand new schedule and add it to that as well. I'm going to skip that part for right now. I just want to show how this actually streams in here into Excel. So now if I wanted to just quickly preview it, I can do so just to make sure, you know, everything looks right. This is the correct search, etc. And now I can actually pull this in. So once I hit create, this now is making a call to NetSuite. It creates a tab here in Excel and it pulls in that search really, really quickly. If I want to come back in 20 minutes and rerun it, if I want to come back tomorrow and rerun it, all I need to do is hit this refresh button and it will pull that data in. So I just want to do a quick example of a search that I already had prior, and that's this customer and sales order saved search here. I can come here now, click this refresh button. It's going to refresh this, pull it in. And this is a good example. This has like, I think 6,000 or so lines on it. And you'll see how quickly it pulls in. So now it's at 2,000. In a second, it'll be at 3,000. So it really pulls this data in quickly. And I actually have some pivot tables over here that are linked to this particular search. So once this is done, I can simply come over here. I can hit refresh on my pivot tables and it will refresh that information. So really, really an easy way to get the data out of NetSuite, pull it in, and then you can do what you want. Use the power of Excel to, you know, use for reporting. So really excited about this, if you can't tell. I've been on the Cloud Extend team 5 years, and I hear this pain point all the time from customers. So I'm super excited about this, and I know our customers are. We have a webinar on the 21st. If anyone's interested, I can send you the link over. You can start a trial of this, actually. It's currently in beta, but trials are still available. And that's actually the case for all of our apps. You can trial them all for free. So let me know if interested, and we can get that going. Thanks, guys.
Can I ask Justine a question?
Yeah.
So your previous Excel one, I'm just thinking, and you showed the example of quotes. So our company is a healthcare communications agency, and we have very detailed schedules that go in, and we do them all in Excel, and then we have to reduplicate it to put it into NetSuite. Would it work for that as well?
When you say schedule, what's the record type?
It is a schedule.
It's actually a schedule?
Yeah.
Let me check, Stephanie. I'll check and see if that's a supported
Okay.
record type, and I'll let you know. I'll get back
Okay.
to you.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Just in a question, how the licensing works?
For the analytics app, the new one?
Yes.
So it's going to have a base price. So the base price will range, and I can send you the details afterwards, and then it's a per license cost. What's really nice is you only need a license if you need to refresh the data. Because it's in Excel, you can share the workbooks out, and you know that person doesn't need a license necessarily unless they want to refresh it. If they want to refresh the data, then they would need a license, but otherwise you can share the workbooks out. So it's a base cost, and then it's a per license cost. We have 2 editions. We have a professional edition, which does not include scheduling. The enterprise edition does include scheduling. Those are the big differences right now. And then we have different phases that we're rolling out with different features. But that's pretty much how the model will work. And I'll send you the pricing. It ranges depending on the different editions.
Thank you.
I have a question for Justine. The Outlook connector, you showed how it could do attachments. If there's an actual attachment in the email, does that get attached, or do you have to attach that separately?
Yes, you can definitely attach that alongside the email if it's in the email, for sure. Cool.
And as a former controller, when I first joined Celigo, I was like, where was this Cloud Extend tool all my life? I was quite jealous that all of my years doing this, I did not have that tool.
So I have a question. So if you've been using Salesforce for some time and NetSuite for some time, and you see your little solution, you go, wow, really, I should be using this because I've got my own scripts. If and when you put this solution in play, can you say, okay, go back to January 1, 2019 and sync from there, or does it all go forward?
Well, if you think about it, what we're doing is on these pre-built flows, we're usually looking for some sort of a trigger. Is it an add record? Is it an update record? In theory, you could go in and do a mass update, add a dot somewhere or do something to trigger it. I always feel like if you're going to do a mass migration using, like, for example, our free data loader tools, similar to like Salesforce data loader or, NetSuite, I would recommend if it's like massive numbers of data, so you're not making all those API calls, it would be probably best to just do a one-time push. But we do have
I mean, all I was thinking is you've got the historic invoices associated with the opportunity that you've had in Salesforce. So
Yep, and one thing I should point out too, the way we keep these records in sync, whether it's an account, a contact, an opportunity to order to order, is when we create a record, say for example on the NetSuite side for an account or an order, I'm actually storing the 18-digit alpha ID from Salesforce.
Yes.
And when I create that back, so now I have this relationship. I know where it originated from because I have an opportunity, also an opportunity ID, and at the line level. So I even know if it's changed. But when I create that record back in the Salesforce side, I'm actually storing the NetSuite ID, the internal ID. So, so there has to be that relationship for historical records, because if there's no way to tell me which opportunity in Salesforce does that exist. So if you were to go in and upload somehow the 18-digit unique ID in NetSuite on your opportunity record, because we do have a custom field for that, then that's something you could do, because the financials are brought over with a saved search, for example. So you could certainly do that.
yeah, we've got all the Salesforce IDs because we already have our own integration. But it's the idea of saying, okay, that's too much management. Let's just bring out the outside solution. So okay.
Yeah, it's really nice. And I think that's, having implemented this myself, I had a team of developers, but I didn't have bandwidth, quite frankly. And I needed to be able to just get in and do this myself. And so it was so nice not to start from scratch, because I needed all the most common things, right? And so my needs were met. And as you could see, I used the example of the case, even if it's something that's unique, because let's face it, Salesforce, it's easy to create a custom record, same thing with NetSuite. So we see a lot of expanded use cases. So it's nice to, instead of have a solution, for example, that's built directly on force.com, it's pretty rigid, right? So when you're expanding or changing, there has to be quite a bit of work done. But because we're built on an iPaaS, as you're expanding or creating new records or objects, it's super easy to just keep building on that. There's no band-aid you have to take off and rebuild on top of that. So really, really, really easy to use and easy to maintain. That's really important, right? You don't have to reach out to us. It's easy to add new fields, change fields, inactivate certain things. It's really, really easy to use.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, another question to Justin. That Cloud Extend tool, does it bring the summary saved searches from NetSuite into Excel?
Yes. Yep. It does support summary saved searches. Definitely.
And I have to say about NetSuite user groups, if you don't mind me saying, when I had been doing a lot of ERPs over my career, right? SAP, Oracle, things like that. But the one way that I got up to speed super quickly years ago on my NetSuite usage was to find a local user group. So it's really exciting to see that you have this. I think it's incredibly valuable to share this information with each other.
Do we have any other questions from the floor? Well, I'd like to thank the Celego team. I know they have some scheduling challenges today, and that's why we moved them up forward. I think too, it's sort of like 7:30 in the morning where you guys are. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess everybody was up early, so we appreciate that. And we're very thrilled by the looks of this product, especially Justine, the new look of the Excel product. That looks awesome. And I'm thinking I'm going to go download that test shortly and give it a try. So
Awesome.
So that looks great. So I want to remind everybody that the presentations will be up in the member-only section after. If you look back to your agenda, there's links. All of it was interactive. So if you'd like to get a hold of any of our sponsors here, just click on their name in those emails. There's direct links embedded to them, as well as to all their presentation material. So again, I'd like to, on behalf of our user group, thank Celego for their support, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you
for
so
having us.
much.
Yeah, thanks for having us, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
I know. So with that, we're going to move on to our next agenda item. So I would like to introduce, of course, who has been with us many times, is Gavin. So he's, I see, already starting to share, which is great. For many of us, of course, our release will be coming out very shortly, or you may have just received it. So the timing on this meeting works out perfect for us. So over to you, Gavin. Thank you.
Perfect. Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Okay. Let's. So as always, if you have questions, feel free to either put them in the chat, or if you're brave enough, jump in and ask it live. I'll try and answer as many as I can. And so yeah, this is it's funny when I do these release highlights. We're already in the process of working on the 21.2 stuff. So then I have to go back and try and remember what we put in the last release, because you're just getting it now for some of you. So I don't think actually there's one product, one slide I'm going to show that is a future product. So hence the safe harbor statement. But as always, if there's any context I can add about what we're planning in the future as I go through this, then I will try and remember to mention that. So it's always better to have a safe harbor statement up there. For those who don't know me, I've been with NetSuite for 10.5 years. Actually, it'll be 11 years in August. And so I've been in manufacturing and ERP forever. I joined NetSuite as a solution consultant doing demonstrations, and I support the manufacturing, wholesale distribution, and food and beverage industries at NetSuite. Quick update. These are not official numbers, but because we don't really publish these until SuiteWorld, which of course we didn't have, but we're over 24,000 customers now, and over 10,000 employees. I think 11,000 employees now. And in terms of context, when I joined, we had around 900 employees. So we're going through some pretty substantial growth still as well. And on the product side, so we're over 2,000 employees. Actually, we're way over that number now of employees. We've been hiring rapidly in the product team. We're about 19 million hours into NetSuite, and there's still just one version of the product. So all those hours go into a single version of the code. We do go to market by industry. So the team I'm on is basically the industry or vertical product team. And it's our job to try and make sure that what we release has benefit to our customers, depending on which vertical that they're in. So we have sales, marketing, implementation, success, development by vertical, and then of course there's some horizontal features like analytics, the experience, and that sort of thing. So let's look at some of the highlights from 21.1. And these are organized by theme. This is something that we've been doing for the last few years, is we have major themes that we are working towards. And then we try and make sure that we slot our all of our features that we're working on into one of these themes. So if it doesn't fit a theme, then we shouldn't be doing it. That's kind of the idea behind these themes. So the first one is autonomous supply chain. So we launched MRP, or supply planning, in the last release. We have over 300 customers who are now have it enabled. And so that's pretty good adoption right there. So basically what we've done in this release is we let you basically flag items separately as being MPS or MRP. So basically either are the assemblies or raw materials, component parts. You can also now schedule the refresh of the repository. So before you had to go in and run the repository, for the most part, it didn't take that long to run, so it wasn't a big deal. But as we get customers putting more and more items and orders into here, then sometimes it can take a little bit longer. So now you can go and schedule it so that it will run and be ready for you whenever you start work, or whenever you want to look at that information. In terms of scalability, so far we have up to customers with up to like 65,000 items is the most that we've had running MRP. And beyond, and it's not even really the limitation right now is not in the MRP processing. It's in this next part, this is the planning workbench, which is where you go and view all the information from the MRP run. And so sometimes if you're over 65,000 items, as you can imagine, trying to load those all into a browser can take a while. So we're working on some things around that, but I think for the most part, most of our customers probably have less than 65,000 items. So in the workbench, we've added this new time phase view. So right now it's just a daily view. There will in the near future be weekly and monthly views. So you can be able to go and choose what buckets you view your supply and demand in. There's conditional formatting, so you can tell it to highlight certain demand based on criteria that you specify. You can now go and search for items. So if you have 65,000 items in your workbench, then you can go and find them a little more easily. And there's now a process to go and auto approve certain orders as well. So we're just trying to streamline some of those processes that are there. This is the one we've been talking about for a while, and it's been a big customer request for a while. So we've tied this into supply allocation. So basically what you can do is you can now go and create channels. And so let's say that you're maybe you sell direct to consumer, you also sell through distribution and also through big box stores. You can go and set those up as channels, and then you can go and classify the orders by channel based on the customer type. And then you can also segment your supply and say that you want X amount of supply to go to each channel. And then beyond that, we also added this reservation feature. So if you have a customer who calls up and a big customer, they call up and they want to place, they're going to place an order next week, but they're just not ready to place the order yet. You can go and check the inventory. If you have it, you can go and reserve inventory or future inventory for that customer. And then when the order comes in, it will automatically be matched up and relieved. So that's quite a nice feature as well. Onto inventory management. This is a really cool feature. I've actually had the chance to play with this a little bit. It will be launched in May. It's going to be basically available to everybody who has advanced inventory, or what's now called the Inventory Management Cloud Service, I think. So if you have the ability to pick, pack, and ship, you'll be able to go and get this mobile app. So it's part of the SCM mobile suite. To get it, so if you have WMS, NetSuite WMS, this will be automatically provisioned to your account or made available to your account. If you have inventory and you want it, you've got to call support after May 15th, I think it is, and they will provision SCM Mobile Suite and the Pack Station for your account. And so basically, what this lets you do is it's the packing process, but it lets you go and pack multiple orders going to the same destination. So if you have a customer with 10 orders, you can pack them all into one or multiple cartons. You can see on the right hand side here, you can have multiple cartons open at the same time. These are all the order lines you want to go and pick, and you can go, or sort of pack, and then you can go and choose which box they go into. And then after that, you can actually go and stage them into a pallet. So it's not full license plating. Think of it as outbound license plating. So you can go and basically go and pack all your boxes, then put them into a pallet, get a pallet ID, and then you'll be able to ship that by that entire pallet by that ID. There's also going to be a Grayscale integration that you'll be able to get as well, so you can clarify the weight. Lots of enhancements in WMS, just as an aside. So we're up to about, since we're based in our third iteration of WMS, and we've been working hard on performance and other features. And we're up to now, we have almost 1,000 customers using NetSuite WMS, so that's been going pretty well. And so now we have the ability to schedule waves, so you can have the waves automatically generated overnight, so that they're ready for your pickers in the morning. There's tally scan functionality, and we added back the status change onto the mobile device. That was a big request. For some reason, we removed that. We put it back based on customers asking why. And now you can also, based on some rules, you can have the labels automatically print. You don't have to go and hit the button anymore to print the label. This is something that one of our teams has built. So if you are in the food industry or an industry where you have product that expires, so lot control that products that expire, you can go and set up rules on the customer saying this customer needs to have so many X days of shelf life time of shipping, and this will automatically go and allocate the lots to the order and the shipment based on the customer's preferences. So this will be a useful thing for many customers. Onto the projects side. So optimizing the project lifecycle is the theme there. We've been doing a lot about, we have a lot of customers who use projects, but they want to buy materials to them. We have a lot of manufacturers, distributors who want to use projects to deliver services. So we've been working hard to converge those two parts of the product. And so now you can go and more easily buy materials for a product, and you'll see the cost in the project as well. If you are entering weekly timesheets and you need to go and make a change, then there's a retract feature now, so you can go and pull your timesheet back, make the change, and resubmit it again. And expanding on the expense report policies. So expense report policies basically are where you can say, you can categorize different types of expenses and say, set up what your company policies are, and it will highlight to the user and to someone in payables when an expense is beyond outside of that policy, and you can have workflow help you decide what to do with it. We also made some enhancements to the mobile app around the dashboard, which makes it a little bit more configurable and customizable too. Smart financials and operational automation theme. So this is kind of cool, actually. So again, this is a feature that our team has, one of our teams has launched. And so basically what this will let you do is in this 21.1 release, you can go and establish a budget. It's a new budget record. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but you can basically go and establish a budget. When purchase orders are placed, it will go and check where you are in terms of remaining budget, and then you can decide how to go and handle it. So you can actually stop them from placing a PO if it's going to take them over that budget for that particular expense category. In the next release, that will work with the standard budget object in record in NetSuite. So probably worth checking out just now, depending on how big a problem this is for you. But in the next release, should be the benefit with the bundles is that they don't have to be tied to a release. So using the standard budgets, I think, is scheduled to come out in like June or July, but it will be officially categorized as part of the 21.2 release. The bank feeds is something we launched in the previous release. Now this is basically expanded globally. And so this will help customers in APAC, EMEA, etc., to use that same type of feature. And centralized purchasing and billing. So this is like an ongoing effort. In the next release, we're going to add to this. We're going to do cross-subsidiary requisitions. So if you'll be able to go and have requisitions and consolidate them across all your subsidiaries if you want to go and aggregate the demand and then place a single order. And so this is basically like letting you do the billing across subsidiaries. And then this lets you do, so we have, of course, custom segments in the accounting side. So this lets you do budget versus actual reporting by any of those custom segments. And we've done some work on the transaction numbering. I didn't show, but we also in the supply chain side, in the control tower, we have these simulation records. We added those to the transaction numbering form. And so we've added things like the fiscal year and subsidiary and location as being part of the document numbering. So if you have a large organization with multiple subsidiaries and locations, etc., then you can easily go and have a more complex numbering document numbering scheme, which will make it easier to go and see exactly what it is that is happening. And then the suite approvals email. So before suite approvals has been around for a while, we want adding other records to it, of course. And so what this does now is it lets you go and send an email that has an accept or decline button in it. And so you can go and accept or decline from your phone or even from your Apple Watch if you want. So that's going to be available across the product. Let me just go and see, there's a few chats in here. Lisa, expense, taxes, not sure. Timesheets allowed lines to be deleted if this is from the week before. I'm not sure if it lets you, if it's been, I think if it's been copied, then you should be able to go and delete the current week, I would think. And centralized payments, I think, is coming shortly, Lisa, as well. So I'll go and check on that, because the centralized purchasing billing thing has been an ongoing project for many releases. So I may be getting confused about what we've actually done and what we've not. So I'll check and I'll let you know. Okay. Analytics. So we talked about analytics before. I think I actually demoed analytics at a previous meeting. So a few minor enhancements, actually not so minor. This one's kind of nice. So now you can do conditional formatting. And so in your workbook, you can go and say, highlight this cell if it's over or under a certain value, that sort of thing. And you can see that the highlighting it in the pivot there. So, so just like you do in Excel, same idea, but now you can do that in Suite Analytics. And also calculated measures. So calculated measures is letting you do calculations based on another way of doing calculations. So before there's the ability to do calculations in the data set. I think this should do it in the workbook. And this is definitely a forward-looking statement. So in July-ish, we're going to be launching the NetSuite Analytics Warehouse or NetSuite Analytics Cloud. I'm not sure exactly what we're calling it yet, but this is basically integration to the Oracle Analytics Cloud. So hold on to your hats for that. That's going to be exciting. We'll see how that looks. And yeah, that should be coming out in July or so. On the commerce side, sometimes I admit to talk about this. So we've done a lot of stuff on multi-language functionality. So this makes it easier to manage pages from a single location that are in multiple languages. And there's now a translation management feature as well that lets you export and import translations and filter missing translations. There's an update to the blog extension for commerce that looks a little bit nicer. And there's now a print button, so you can go and print a data sheet from the website as well. Platform, another area sometimes I omit to talk about. So let's talk about platform quickly. And so again, so the platform team is really responsible for this whole internationalization effort as well. And so, for example, I mean, this actually will translate where it can. So if you do like a translation in the workbook, it will actually try and translate the text for you, and then it will tell you where it's successful and where it's not. And so this is going to continue to be enhanced. The application performance management, if you guys don't use this is probably a good topic for an upcoming meeting, actually. How you deploy it, what it means, how you use it, that sort of thing. And so REST has been added to that, so that this lets you keep track of all of your integrations and what performance is like, etc., and where there might be issues. There's more records being exposed to REST. This is going to be an ongoing thing. So hopefully the records you want are there. If not, they're probably coming. If you have a specific request, then let me know. I can find out if it's where it is on the roadmap. And then SDF is our Suite Cloud Development Framework. I thought I hid this slide actually, so we won't talk too much more about this. But this is like, I'm sure Mark could probably talk more about how this works. I'm sure Danby uses it. But this is if you have a more complex environment and are managing multiple customizations, etc. Okay, wow, that seemed like I got through that in record time. Let's see if there's any more questions. Any improvement on multi-factor authentication for BankFeed app? I do not know. I'm not doing very well with the questions so far. But I will copy all these questions, and I'll see if I can get answers for you as well. I would expect that there is, I would think, but I'm not sure. So let me copy these questions, and I'll try and get some answers back to either you directly or through Mark. And I think that's it. Anyone have any questions they want to ask live on air?
A question, Gavin. The email approvals, the user that receives the email, do they have to have a NetSuite license?
I believe so. Yeah, because I mean, I think so, because there's still authentication, right? Because then you could be sending, you could be sending like an approval to somebody that has no has no ability to approve it. We need to authenticate that they can approve it, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, Gavin, with all the improvements that you're making to WMS, is that basically we're trying to cut out RS Smart, or will RS Smart? I mean, you clearly trying to make some improvements. I mean, the biggest thing that our Smart's got over you guys is stock counting.
There's a few things that we're not trying to take out anybody.
Right.
We're trying to offer native alternatives for those that want them in areas that we think are core to business. So WMS is clearly core for distributors, manufacturers, retailers. And we call it internally, we call it co-opetition with our partners, because we need our partners like Celigo and RF Smart and etc. But if we think that it's something that's core functionality that we should be offering, then we're going to do it. Same with the supply planning, right? MRP, we have lots of demand planning partners. But we felt that, or we feel that demand and supply planning is something that we should offer natively. It doesn't mean that it's going to meet everyone's needs, but we think it should meet what we had wasn't good enough. And same thing. I mean, with Sligo this morning, you may have noticed in the news we just bought FarApp, who is another partner that does integration specifically to commerce. And so we've done some work with Oracle's OIC platform around doing integrations to Salesforce, Shopify, Amazon, etc. And at the end of the day, it felt like it made more sense to acquire FarApp, and then we can offer those integrations as native NetSuite offerings. So we're not trying to put anyone out of business, basically. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, and WMS has been, we had a bit of a rocky road with WMS for a while, but we went back and we redeveloped what we needed to do, and we got the performance where we think it needs to be. And I think the fact that we have 1,000 customers using it now is probably a good thing. So.
Yeah, I suppose my next presentation, I'm talking about Avalera, but I've also added on enhancements. I think my biggest frustration with NetSuite is trying to get some of the easy stuff resolved instead of being told of workarounds that double the workload of people.
Sure.
And it doesn't seem that things get prioritized.
Yeah, so I mean, every release, we try and do. We look at the top enhancement requests, and we look at the votes on enhancement requests. Gary and Evan are always wanting to know what we're doing to knock off some of those top requests. So, for example, in the next release, we're doing an update whereby you can change the asset and COGS accounts on an item record, and it doesn't go back and change all your historical stuff. And so that was again a top enhancement request from customers. So it's not like we ignore customers. We actually look at what customers want, but there's a lot of top enhancement requests, and some of them are easier to do than others. And just to explain how it works, so here, let me go back to a slide, but one of my first slides. Yeah, there we go. This guy here. So, so even though this is the way we go to market, yeah, and I say we have development here by vertical, this is really a platform development. We have platform development teams in India, Manila, and other places that build solutions like the FIFO allocation, things like that. The core development teams are not organized by vertical. The core development teams own specific records or functions in the company. So there's a supply chain development team, there's a manufacturing development team, that sort of thing. And so you can imagine So even though somebody owns, let's say, the sales order or the expense record or whatever it is, or an item record, anytime they go and make a change to that record, they have to go and check with all the teams to make sure, or they're getting lots of requests from a lot of teams to make changes to the item record, for example. And if they make a change to the item record, the item team has to go and make sure that what they change doesn't go and affect anybody else.
Yep.
And so some of the things seem minor. In reality, when you have 25,000 customers now live, nothing that we do is minor, and has some consideration. So there's definitely some. It just takes properly analyzing what the impact is and making sure that we don't break anything. Breaking things is bad.
Yeah, I suppose and this is my pitch to the user group in general, is that we have to advocate. I think the problem is when a case gets closed and it says, oh, it's an enhancement, you can't just leave it there. You actually have to take the time to log on and say, well, that annoys me and I'm voting for the enhancement, because nothing's changing. I mean, I think in my presentation, I talk about cross-settlement of vendors and cross-settlement of customers in different currencies. I'm embarrassed every time I go to help someone and they look at me and go, seriously, I have to do 2 steps to cross-settle. And I'm like going, yeah, I know.
I think that's actually in the next release. I was just going through the 21.2 stuff. So let me go check. But I saw something about that.
Because
next
it's
release.
embarrassing. It's embarrassing, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this little presentation. And that's it. I want to get people to vote, because I think everybody just shrugs their shoulders and moves on because we're all too busy.
Yeah, that's not really what happens, but I understand that's the way it looks.
No, but I'm saying users.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The concept should be customer support. The moment they tell you it's an enhancement, they should say, would you like a vote for that?
Sure.
Right? Because by default, you are voting for that because you haven't got your case resolved.
Right.
So, and then I think NetSuite would get a more accurate count of who's impacted by this.
Sure. That's not a bad idea. I'll go and talk to. So the guy who runs support is actually Canadian. He's also in Toronto. So maybe I'll go and talk to him and see. But that'd actually be a good presentation for one of a future group, maybe someone from the support team, to talk about how that process works and why they do certain things. If you guys would be interested in that, I've seen them do that before. It's pretty interesting. And Mark has a question about inbound shipment customization. I'm guessing no, because I think, and this is a really future forward-looking statement. There's a good chance at some point that entire record is going to be, or that entire system is going to be refactored, they call it. So, but probably not anytime soon. And the last thing is, as of Monday, Suite World is still scheduled for October. So let's in Vegas. Let's just hope that that happens and some of us actually get there. So that'd be kind of fun.
Wow.
Okay. As always, if there's any questions you didn't want to ask or you forgot, then, or if anyone wants, like, I do strategy and roadmap sessions for customers as well. So if anybody wants me to come and talk to them about what we're planning and what we're doing and what our philosophy is, and talk a little bit more about what the longer term stuff roadmap is, then just either email me or email your account manager and tell them that I said that I would do that, and I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. We appreciate you joining us virtually. We've loved when you've presented in the live meetings, and we know these are challenging times, but thank you for coming out today and answering all our questions. So with that, I would like to introduce our next presenter, our own Lisa Reed, who is on the board. She is our treasurer for the new members that may not know her. Lisa has a lot of experience with NetSuite. And of course, this is the time of year we all dread. It's filings and so forth and taxes. And there are, since we're a Canadian group and Canadians love taxes, it's a subject that will pop up, and there's many obviously solutions in NetSuite, but there's also a few frustrations. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Lisa.
Thanks, Dale. So the purpose of my little short presentation was just to talk about the experience I've had with Avalara and implementing that. Now, Avalara is all to do with sales taxes. It also does hotel taxes and a few other things, but I just wanted to share my experience, and if you've got any questions or were thinking about Avalara, at least you can hear what I've experienced. So we all know charging sales taxes is complicated, and Avalara has become the go-to solution for NetSuite. I can personally say that the integration between NetSuite and Avalara based on the invoicing of sales orders is great. It works, it's simple, it's not difficult to implement. But the integration between Stripe and Avalara, on the other hand, is not as strong as it should be. It's my personal opinion, and it's really dependent on your business requirements and on how you operate. Now I've got to work out how to go down. So today I've done a couple of Avalara implementations. As I said, the one that used the integration between Avalara and NetSuite, doing the sales orders and from Salesforce, and then they did all their invoicing and revenue recognition within NetSuite, was a very easy implementation of Avalara. Whereas recently I implemented Avalara versus Stripe for a company that licensed their software, and they collect their payments on Stripe. Everything's online. The sales portal interacts with Stripe, which in turn interacts with Avalara, and then they get the necessary taxes to be charged to the customer. But due to the high volumes of transactions, and because it's all online and there's nothing being shipped, all the orders are brought into NetSuite on an aggregated basis for cash sales and refund, because we don't need to know the customer in NetSuite as such. So as I said, when you've got a full customer address within NetSuite, Avalara can do its job because it knows the country, the postal code, and it can work out the taxes very easily. One comment I would have is that the default API integration between Avalara and Stripe, you need to be cautious about it. With hindsight, for this customer, we should have built our own. There's basically two types of integration between Avalara and Stripe. One is invoice-based, and another one is charge-based. So if anyone's familiar with Stripe, they basically have a charge versus an invoice. We had to use the invoice version of the API integration due to our subscription, because a client signs up and then they get a monthly invoice, and every monthly invoice has to have a tax calculation, and that's why we had to go to the next one. So the problem in our little world was the moment that an invoice was issued, Avalara committed that as a tax liability. But we're an online software company, and lots of people go and enter in saying, I want something, and they either put in a bad credit card thinking that they'll get the software for a couple of hours or days, and eventually it will catch up. So we had the situation where Avalara was clocking up all these invoices as being committed tax liabilities, when in actual fact, the credit card didn't end up receiving payment. And Avalara's default invoice API integration wasn't taking into account the actual payment details. So we did numerous work around to fix it, because we couldn't actually modify the default API integration, and then that even contributed to even more workaround. But we were so far in, well, not we, but the IT team of the company was. So the other challenging is I believe the API integration should be sending Avalara's tax data into Stripe's tax data, not just adding a second line of the invoice being taxes as per Avatax, which I thought looked very unprofessional. And by not populating Stripe's tax data, when there was a subsequent dispute of the credit card, well, Stripe knew nothing about the tax amount and couldn't help you capture it. It just disputed the invoice plus nil tax. So any integration you wrote on the dispute had to deduce what the tax amount was by looking at the previous record. The other annoying thing about the default Stripe API invoice integration with NetSuite was that whenever the invoice itself was updated by Stripe, it would be recommitted as a taxable event. So Stripe has this process that it will keep trying the credit card 4 times. That meant that Avalara would keep turning this invoice back to committed 4 times. So it was a vicious circle as the 3 weeks went by, and then they realized we weren't going to get paid. So even committed invoices were getting created when we had the credit card as being blocked. We knew that a kid was trying to do fictitious purchases, and we was trying to stop the transaction, but Avalara was still recording it. Lastly, for some unknown reason, the default integration between Stripe and Avalara when it's an invoice insists on using the customer's email as the ID, which we didn't like from a privacy point of view, as well as the fact that a customer can buy multiple products on the same email, but within Stripe, there are different customer IDs. So we were getting out of sync with the relationship between Stripe and Avalara. So I suppose long and short, if you are thinking about Avalara, I would be saying that it's not a problem for the NetSuite integration. It's pretty straightforward. It's just important that you know your business. You need to understand the triggers. I mean, that was it came up with Celigo. It's all about a record being created and a record being updated and which way the data is flowing. I would also recommend you think about your customer database and make sure it does actually have zip codes because you're dealing with historical customers. This is one of the challenges when you go live with Avalara, is that you may have 100,000 customers that you're already processing, that all of a sudden they're going to start to see a tax bill and they may not like that. And you've got to either work out whether you want to say, okay, we will take the tax hit until we lose these older customers, but all new customers pay tax, but you got to think about that. So that is my bit on enhancements. I can't see if there was a chat. Was there a chat? Is there any questions on Avalara? It's like talking to a, can't find anything. Okay, so are we good to go on to talking about, does anyone want to ask a question about Avalara?
Sorry, Lisa, just a question for you. So in your Avalara implementation, so you use Avalara only to collect the taxes, or you also use Avalara services to remit the taxes to the revenue agencies?
Remit the taxes is straightforward. They do a good job on remitting the taxes. The biggest question is the tax amount correct? And as I said, NetSuite, Avalara, straightforward, the tax amount is correct. But NetSuite, so Stripe, Avalara, not so much because of all these issues we were having.
Okay.
Lisa, maybe a question for the group. How many people on the call are using Avalara? And maybe you can use the reaction with the thumbs up.
Mark, I use Avalara for one of my clients.
Okay. So a few. Okay, good.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to go on to take up 5 more minutes of your time. I think it's really important as a user group that we advocate for the enhancements. I find that every time I listen to the new release, I think, well, what about some of the silly stuff that's not getting traction? So I thought it was great to hear that Gavin said that cross-vendor, cross-customer settlement is in play. But I do think we have to work together and help each other in terms of, I've come across this enhancement, could you consider voting for it? It needs escalation, because I think so many of us just shrug our shoulders when we get the delightful email back from customer support saying it's an enhancement and then nobody does anything. I've been actively using the Oracle community for NetSuite support of late, and just about every single thing I ask for, it comes back as an enhancement. So I have actually made it my mission that I am going to make enhancements work and try and encourage others to vote. So what I just did on this presentation, which will go up on the website, is just trying to promote to others to go out and vote for these enhancements. The fact that to settle a vendor bill that's in a different currency requires 2 steps from the AP team is ridiculous, in my humble opinion. The same thing for customer invoices. Of course, customers are going to pay you in their invoice. If you want to bill them in US dollars and they want to pay in Canadian dollars, that's an acceptable practice. Come on, NetSuite should be able to handle that. So go and consider voting for 229321 and 112956. This stuff's been around since 2012 and 2016. It's really somewhat sad. I'm been helping a company of late that has 90 subsidiaries, which has been entertaining, but it's incredibly challenging for them. They don't do sales orders or purchase orders. They interact with each subsidiary. They do a lot of transfer pricing and a lot of cross billing of services, but they don't want to do sales orders and purchase orders in order to get NetSuite's intercompany functionality on customers and vendors and invoices, like being able to do the vendor bills and the customer invoices. And I mean, I'm sure I remember seeing at Sweet World one year where you enter a customer invoice, and if it's an intercompany customer invoice, an intercompany vendor bill will appear. I know it's been thought about, but it doesn't seem to be a priority, and it can't be that difficult. So I would really appreciate anyone wishing to vote for that, because that would streamline the intercompany processes and not being forced to do sales orders and purchase orders. Another enhancement that I think should get attention is the bank transfer transactions and the new functionality of bank matching. I have found incredibly interesting. I mean, it has merit, but one of the problems with a bank account is you get transactions in that are bank transfers, but I don't see bank matching being able to cope with bank transfers, because one currency is in US dollars and one currency is in Canadian. So it would be nice if somehow either bank matching could handle it, or you could import those transactions. Another one of my clients that I've been helping with has sheer volume of, they handle 26 different currencies, and the volume of bank transfers is horrific, and we can't import them because the document type, I suppose it would be called, is not exposed. So that would be an useful enhancement. Another one that I thought was nice is, I don't know if anyone's used the bank reconciliation summary on the front of NetSuite. It's a very nice report. It tells you all the bank accounts and the date they were last reconciled and what the balance is of that date. But can you get that in Excel? Absolutely not. You can't even write a save search. You can do nothing. But it's a really nice report. So that's an enhancement. If you have more than 5 bank accounts, you should be considering voting for that one. The next one was more about transfers of funds, but one of them has to be the base currency. So if your base currency is USD, but you do a transfer between Canadian and euros, you can't do it. And it's like, I can't do it. It's okay. There's a workaround. You do euro to USD and then USD to Canadian. It's like, seriously, two steps to do something that should be done. So that's a pet peeve. The other one I thought should get some attention is the dashboards and the KPI portlets. I really don't like the concept of, you can't do movement. You can't do, I want to just see the bank debt and how much did the bank debt go down, like account type. I want to see the movement as opposed to just giving me two numbers and I have to do the mental maths. I think that could be improved. And then I suppose the other one was the company that has 90 subsidiaries. Can you imagine trying to look at the balance sheet and scroll your eye to the right and look at the data when all the rows have disappeared because it doesn't have freeze frames? So if you have trouble with your reports in terms of not being able to read them on on NetSuite itself, and is always forced to put it into Excel so you can freeze the frames, you should consider voting for the enhancement 508091. And this is one of the challenges with NetSuite, is they have multiple enhancements that talk about the same thing. So these two, when I was on Oracle's user group community, they listed 3 enhancements, and goodness me, why didn't they go and consolidate all those enhancements into one? Because fundamentally, they're all the same thing. So without further ado, I thought it would be nice to open up the floor and just say, what enhancements would you like to be voted for, and how do you see this happening to help each other?
So on the last one there, or maybe it's the second last one, the 545, there,
Yeah.
no, on that other screen.
Yeah, transfer funds.
No, go to the last screen that you're on there, the one at the top. There is something, if you surf sticky headers, NetSuite, and you'll find a scripting solution there that may help. And I don't know if it works for reports, but it's worked on sub lists, like say on the item record, if you have many locations where you look at inventory and the headers stick, which, you know, small things like that help out users.
Totally. And how would I search for the word sticky header? You know what I mean? This is what I find frustrating, is the number of ways I've tried to search Suite answers to try and find that, and not one of my searches came back with sticky header.
Okay, don't search it in NetSuite, search in Google.
Right.
Just put sticky headers NetSuite, and it should be in the first couple. I can also post it in the chat too.
That's unbelievable.
I always start my searches outside of NetSuite actually, and look for third parties that and consultants that have posted, you know, in their blogs, like certain things.
Yeah.
That's where I usually start to search, and then I get into, you know, NetSuite and Suite Answers. But this is great. You know, Lisa, this might be a really good use of our LinkedIn forum as well.
Yeah.
That any of our users can put in LinkedIn, hey, just came across this enhancement. I think it's a great idea. Just bring it to your attention, and then just like a little blurb on it.
Yeah.
Like even a cut and paste as to what that enhancement is. And then people could go and then vote on that. It's one way to get the communication out on a regular basis. You know, we have 65 users right now in our LinkedIn forum. So, but we don't use our LinkedIn forum as much as what I would like to see us all using it for.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yes, we can add this to the website So up in the member section, we could have a, an enhancements page, add a table and links for all these enhancements to directly go and vote and encourage people.
Good idea, Darrell. Yep, you can do that. Absolutely. I know I have a lot of enhancements that I voted on. So Lisa, as a takeaway, I'll take a look at some of mine.
Yes.
And if they're not equal on your list, then I'll start sharing those out too. So
Yeah,
I'm in the same situation. Some have been there since we went live a couple of years ago, and they're still sitting there.
Yeah, very, very common. And I think one of the things that it is, because if you don't pay for the fancy support from NetSuite, you can't submit a case anymore through Suite Answers. The button's gone as far as I'm concerned. So you have to go through the account center. But if you go through the account center and look at all cases, they actually show every time they've told you about an enhancement. I love it. They tell you about the enhancement, but they don't submit a vote on your behalf to say, by the way, they would really like this solution. I can see why they want that solution. So that's the fastest way to review all enhancements that you've been told about.
Agreed.
All right. Thank you, Lisa, for giving that to us. So that pretty much wraps up the agenda for this meeting. We have, as a board, gone and set the future dates now all the way out into next year. Our next meeting is going to be on July 15th. And there's a tentative agenda already, but if you're interested in something being added, you can email anybody here on the board. If you hit the website, there's direct links to all of our emails. There'll be a meeting scheduled for November and for January. We actually already have sponsors for all three of those future meetings, which the revenue, of course, will be helping our NetSuite group. At some point, obviously, we'll move back into in-person. No idea when that will come. And then we'll be looking again for venues. So if anybody does have a venue available through their company and would like to offer the location for a meeting, let us know for when things open back up. And of course, we will always continue to record and offer our in-person meetings also via Zoom for those that can attend, whether it's distance, whether it's timing. And of course, we record these. So for those, again, are not familiar, some of the newer users, if you've registered at our website, there's a members only section. If you go up in there, there are the recordings of prior meetings. So a couple days from now, we'll get the recording from today's meeting and we'll get that posted up there, along with presentations like Lisa's presentation, that will be posted there, and whatever Celego provided. So that way you can always go back and review and replay it. So I'd like to open up the floor to all the members. Is there any other questions or suggestions you'd like to bring to the table?
We're a chatty lot.
Yep. Well, we're all in lockdown. Half of the group's probably in pajamas and slippers with the cameras off, so we know what it's like. But we do try to keep these timely. We usually wrap up in 2 hours. Gavin actually was, as he put it, very quick today. He normally takes a little bit longer we had planned for. But I think that will wrap us up. So again, I want to thank Celego, our sponsor, and I would like to thank Gavin from NetSuite for taking the time to come with us today. And all of you, I know things are very hectic in life with the state of emergency, but NetSuite is a large part of a lot of our lives. And if you're not learning, you're sort of not moving forward. So I encourage you to encourage your colleagues to join this group. We have, like I mentioned, grown from 60 to 77 just over the last few months. And as Mark mentions, join the LinkedIn. LinkedIn is sort of a little more real time, some interaction. So if you have not joined our LinkedIn group, I would encourage you to do that. And I think that about wraps us up to today. If there's nothing else, we will adjourn. And I wish everybody health and happiness over these next few weeks of lockdown.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.